For those of you who've been playing the game for a long time now, you would have known that the bounty hunters have been in shambles with the few exceptions of IG-88 and Boba Fett, and in this video today, we're going to see how Capital Games gave the bounty hunters a complete facelift alongside the release of Bosk as a brand new character. For time-saving purposes and keeping the videos concise to one topic, I'm releasing two videos side by side today, so at the same time you're watching this, there's also a video about Bosk and what he has to offer, so click on the card in the top right-hand corner to check it out because he is a crucial part of the bounty hunter faction, being the only taunting bounty hunter that also has a mass assist ability. Really cool kid, so be sure to check that out. But let's get into it and talk about what's new with the original trilogy bounty hunters that we have had and what their reworks are all about. So in summary, in this video you're watching right now, we're going to see how the original trilogy bounty hunters who've been in the game for the longest time now, those being IG-88, Boba Fett, Dengar, and Greedo, and how they got a huge overhaul with new leadership abilities, new abilities in general, new Zeta Mat abilities, and even the whole contract system that has been implemented, and on top of all that, huge damage output, as we will see. So without further ado, let's go into what I think is the most interesting rework out of all these bounty hunters, and that being IG-88. Now, before the rework, IG-88 was already a semi-decent character, good damage output, and had a decent kit with the mass ability blocks, but now they made him even better, and we're only going to highlight what changed with him. And the first thing to point out is his special ability, known as Rapid Fire, which was already the highlight of his kit before. I'll read the full thing and point out what's new. The whole thing says, deal physical damage to all enemies with a 55% chance to inflict ability block for 1 turn and a 50% chance to inflict defense down for 2 turns. But the new thing added to IG-88's Rapid Fire is the fact that he can inflict target lock on enemies that are critically hit for 3 turns. First of all, Target Lock is one of my favorite debuffs in the game if you know me, due to the fact that Imperial Probe Droid does a lot of work with Target Lock, and secondly, 3 turns with Target Lock, now that is a huge duration right there, but Target Lock for IG-88 is slightly different than how it works for Imperial Probe Droid, and as we'll talk about soon, this offers up a lot of potential synergy between Probe Droid and IG-88. Hold on, I really want to talk about that in a moment. The next thing that changed for IG-88 is his leader ability, known as Resourceful Pursuer. What it says in total is that all allies gain plus 20% critical chance and inflict a damage over time effect whenever they score a critical hit. Nothing new right there, but when IG-88 is in the leader slot and not the ally slot, the following contract is active, and what we'll talk about soon is every single original trilogy bounty hunter now has a leadership ability, but on top of their leadership ability, they have a contract that they assign for everyone to tackle on as a team. We'll explain it more in a second, but the contract that IG-88 has active, it says score critical hits against debuffed enemies 10 times. Very easy to do, and once you complete the contract, a reward is granted to all bounty hunter allies to benefit from, and the reward for scoring 10 critical hits on debuffed enemies is that all bounty hunter allies gain plus 25% offense and potency for the rest of the battle. So let's just summarize how contracts work. So going forward, we can just talk about the characters themselves. In short, every single bounty hunter from the original trilogy now has a leadership ability, and attached to those leadership abilities is a special contract. They're essentially coming in and saying, hey guys, I have this job, let's work on this together and we'll all get this reward. And the reward varies depending on the bounty hunter leader. So once the leader's contract is completed, they all get the reward associated with that leadership contract, but each individual bounty hunter gets a very special payout solely for themselves that they do not share with others, that's mainly designed to amplify their kit even more. So you're going to see 2 blue icons that are locked. One means the universal bonus that was granted due to the contract being completed, and you'll see a second icon indicating solely that individual's unique payout that they are getting. Hopefully you guys have a better understanding of how contracts work, but we're going to keep moving along now. After that discussion, let's wrap up with IG-88. He has a unique ability called Adaptive Aim Algorithm. Before it was quite basic, but now IG-88 has plus 45% critical damage, and the new thing is that he recovers 50% health whenever he damages a target locked enemy. In addition, he has plus 20% offense for each debuffed enemy and plus 50% evasion against target locked enemies. And here's the cool part I was mentioning earlier. When IG-88 is active, target locked enemies can't recover health or protection. So he's getting a lot of target lock benefits out of here, but by far my favorite is the potential with the target lock synergy between Imperial Probe Droid and IG-88. They're both droids already, so right there's a lot of synergy potential, but the coolest thing is that with IPD on the field and IG-88, when target lock is applied, enemies won't be able to gain buffs because of IPD's unique on target lock, and with IG-88 on the field at the same time, enemies can't also get health or protection, so preventing buffs, health, and protection all together at once. That is pretty huge, and we're starting to get to a point where the droid faction might be getting better down the road simply because of these two characters. But let's move on. I could talk more about this all day, but I'll make a separate video on IG-88 and IPD. But let's move on to Boba Fett. This is essentially Boba Fett 3.0. He already got a rework last year. Now he has another one, and the first thing to point out that changed is his second special ability, known as Execute. The one thing that really changed is if he did not defeat an enemy with this ability, he gets to inflict healing immunity for 2 turns, which does help against the Palpatine meta since they get a lot of health regeneration. The leadership ability for Boba Fett, known as Dead or Alive, the core mechanic has not changed. He still grants critical damage, critical chance, and has thermal detonator synergy for bounty hunters, but the new thing added is the contract mechanism. When he's in the leadership role, the contract he brings to the table for the team to achieve, it says to defeat the first enemy that takes a turn in any encounter, and all bounty hunter allies can contribute to this contract. The reward for completing Boba Fett's leadership contract is that all bounty hunter allies have plus 25% tenacity for the rest of the battle, and in my opinion, I think the other bounty hunters have a more exciting contract and reward, but this might have some sort of purpose in the game. But I think the cool thing is that his contract is kind of tailored towards teams that have Han Solo. Han Solo might go first on the other team, so your job is to take out Han Solo first, for example. The other thing added to Boba Fett's kit is his own unique payout. So when the contract of the leadership is completed, he'll gain the bonuses from the leadership contract, but at the same time, he's going to get his own individual bonus. And it says whenever Boba Fett receives rewards from a contract, he also gains the following payout. Boba Fett gains 100% turn meter, and for the rest of the battle has plus 50 speed and additional defense penetration equal to 200% of his defense penetration. Now, if you watch my Bosk reveal video that I put out today, you will see that Bosk's leadership contract grants all bounty hunter allies plus 50 speed for the rest of the battle. So if you're doing a Bosk leadership, I highly recommend putting Boba Fett in there, because once you complete Bosk's leadership, Boba Fett in total is going to have plus 100 speed, 50 from Bosk's leadership contract and plus 50 from his own unique payout. A lot of potential right there, and his damage output goes through the roof due to the fact he can dig right underneath the defense of his enemies. By far the most drastic kit changes comes down to Greedo and Dengar. They're totally different than what they were before, and let's start off with Greedo. His basic, known as Who Shot First, says deal physical damage to a target enemy with a 70% chance. They gain potency up for 1 turn, and when attacking an enemy with a thermal detonator, this attack has plus 25% critical damage. Although thermal detonators themselves still aren't that significant because they can be easily resistible, easily cleansable, the developers are trying to find ways to make thermal detonators more powerful. As we saw with Bosk's kit, we also see with Greedo's kit that Greedo's trying to apply thermal detonators, and he does some pretty big damage against enemies with these thermal detonators on them. Greedo's first special, known as Explosive Sabotage, got some changes here, and it says place thermal detonators on all enemies that explode after 2 turns. We've already seen that before, but the new thing is when these thermal detonators explode, Greedo gains plus 25% turn meter. So as I said, the developers are trying to find ways to make thermal detonators mean a little bit more, and here we're seeing that there might be a lot of potential, especially for the special missions in Dark Side territory battles, because Zam Wesell, if you haven't known already, she's really critical to beat it, but now with Greedo and Zam Wesell, I think it'll be really easy to knock those out of the park. Greedo now has a brand new special ability called Threaten, has a cooldown of 4, and it also has a Zeta mat attached to it, and in total, it says all allies gain critical chance up for 2 turns. On top of that, he reduces the target enemy's turn meter, which can't be resisted except by raid bosses, unfortunately, by an amount equal to Greedo's critical chance. Then, Greedo gains an equal amount of turn meter removed this way, and if the target is reduced to less than 20% turn meter, you get to stun them for 1 turn, which can't be resisted. Additionally, dispel all buffs on target enemy, and on top of this, this attack cannot be evaded. So quickly breaking this down, the critical chance is really important because the bounty hunters, they got a lot of damage output now after their reworks, and this will just ensure there's a lot of critical damage, and there's a lot of critical damage synergy going on amongst the bounty hunters, and Bosk is granting offense up, so a lot of potential for damage output right there. This also might be really helpful in the Sith raid. Being able to stun the Sith assassins, for example, will be very important, and a buff dispelling character makes it a bit easier to remove those buffs and not rely solely on Boba Fett being the only buff dispelling character on the team. So a lot of possibilities, and this does come in handy quite a lot from the footage I'm seeing. Unfortunately, Greedo's leadership ability, known as Ambuscade, hasn't really changed. It's essentially a mini version of Boba Fett's leadership that's more constrained. He still has the plus 50% critical damage, but the new thing is they attached a contract to his leadership, as we're seeing with the other bounty hunters. The contract for Greedo, for everyone to accomplish, says damage an enemy with less than 50% turn meter 10 times with a basic ability, and if you complete that, the reward for all bounty hunters is to get plus 50% critical damage for the rest of the battle. So if you do this, you're going to churn out quite a lot of damage from your bounty hunters. And like the fact we're seeing contracts attached to leadership, Greedo also has his own unique individual payout, and when Greedo receives a reward from a contract, he also gains the following payout. The payout is that Greedo has plus 50% health steal, plus 25% critical damage, and plus 75% counter chance until the end of the battle. And there's some footage of Greedo doing some serious damage out there, so he could be quite a threat on there. Getting 20,000 damage 2 times on the basic kind of seems like a Han Solo to some extent. Dengar is our next character on the list, and he's got a lot of changes. His basic hasn't changed at all, but I do want to point out the fact that he can call someone to assist is actually quite significant, seeing how much damage output these characters put out now. Really important to point out, but his first change that we see is from his special ability known as Blast and Smash. The only thing that changed is now he has a 75% chance to inflict speed down for 3 turns. The rest is the same, so we can move on to his second special known as Mini Mind Mayhem. It seemed so cool before, but really didn't have much of a purpose. Let's check out and see what changed here. So Dengar is still going to hit everyone with this ability, but on top of this, he gets to hit 2 additional times to random enemies, dealing 50% less damage. And then he inflicts negative status effects on all enemies that suffer a critical hit, and the effects inflicted depend on the number of critical hits scored. If he's only getting 1 critical hit, he inflicts tenacity down for 3 turns. If he's inflicting 2 critical hits, he applies damage over time for 3 turns and gains stealth for 2 turns. And if he gets 3 critical hits, he reduces turn meter by 50%. And finally, he applies 1 thermal detonator to a random enemy for each target bounty hunter ally. Again, they're trying to make thermal detonators mean a lot more than before. And to seal the deal on this ability, it also cannot be countered. A lot of stuff going on, and on top of that, you won't be able to counter Dengar. But there's some more stuff in the unique ability, which we'll talk about in a moment. Dengar now has a leadership ability, something he never had before, and what it says now is that bounty hunter allies have plus 50% health steal, and in addition, all enemies have minus 50% critical damage. And when Dengar is in the leadership slot and not the ally slot, the following contract is active. Damage the healthiest enemy 10 times. Nothing that hard to do. It's most likely going to be Kenobi or Baze or some sort of taunting tank, and the reward for doing so is that enemies have minus 20% offense for the rest of the battle. Then we move on to the unique ability known as Grizzled Veteran. Now it has some changes and a Zeta map. Whenever Dengar receives a critical hit, he gains stealth for 2 turns, and whenever an enemy evades Dengar's attack, he gains plus 60% turn meter, and whenever Dengar suffers a debuff, he gains tenacity up for 2 turns. And the new thing is while Dengar is stealth, get a load of this, enemies can't gain stealth. Oh wow, that pretty much counters Sith Assassin in the Sith raid, counters R2-D2 in Arena. That is pretty significant right there. And whenever this ability's effects trigger, Dengar recovers 3% health and protection. So if you're facing Jedi Training Rey or Commander Luke Skywalker and they rely on hiding under stealth with R2-D2, having Dengar under stealth is actually quite deadly right there. It's kind of like a buff immunity to some extent that solely counters stealth. But lastly, we gotta talk about Dengar's own personal payout for when the leadership contract is completed. When the contract from the leadership of any bounty hunter has been completed, Dengar for himself gets plus 25% offense and plus 25% speed, and in addition, while Dengar is stealth, he has plus 60% chance to assist when another bounty hunter ally uses a special ability. So imagine Boba Fett uses death from above, Dengar gets called to assist, and because of his basic ability, he also has a chance to call in someone else to assist, so you can kind of have a 3-person assist ability right here, for example. Woo! Whew, that is pretty much everything you need to know about the bounty hunters and their reworks. A lot of stuff going on, and this video's already went on long enough, so we're gonna have to make more videos down the line showing the potential of the bounty hunters. And on the surface, I think they have a lot of viability in so many different game modes now. You guys let me know down below, what are you thinking of the whole reworks for the bounty hunter faction? Because I think there's a lot of possibility, but you guys let me know, what lineups are you looking for? What do you think they're going to be viable in? And check out the Bosk video, because we didn't cover it here, and that's a whole other thing going on and a big equation to the bounty hunters and what they are now. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead, leave me a like, comment down below. As I said, let me know what you're thinking, and be sure to subscribe so you're not missing all this content I'm planning on releasing very soon. And as always,